Good morning. This is Shannon and Emily with Finding the Thing, and this is episode 25. So today we're going to talk about Pennsylvania's governor protecting individuals from conversion therapy and supporting the LGBTQIA plus community. There's an upcoming Lancaster Balloon Festival that Emily and I will be attending, and we will be working to conquer Emily's fear of heights by using exposure therapy.
Yes.
So we are going to talk a little bit more about that, and we're going to talk about beekeeping.
Yep. All kinds of stuff.
Yeah. But first, I wanted to share something that's near and dear to my heart and Emily's as well. But we have an upcoming OCD walk, which is called the 1 Million Steps for OCD. And this walk started June 5th, 2012. And it kind of originated because this man, Dennis Asselin, walked over 500 miles from Cheney, Pennsylvania, to Boston, Massachusetts. And he did this in memory of his son, Nathaniel. And Nathaniel had taken his own life at the age of 24 after a really long battle with body dysmorphic disorder and OCD. And so Dennis has been really trying to spread the word and raise awareness and, help people get trained to treat these disorders, and just really, really working with the International OCD Foundation in an effort to help with all of the awareness work that they do. And so that's how this walk developed. And we last year, we started a version of this walk here in the Harrisburg area of Pennsylvania. And the walk is held all over the US, and it's held in June and it's held in October. And our walk here locally is October 1st, and it will be at the New Cumberland Borough Park. And we are trying to raise money. Last year, we raised about $11,000. And so that was really amazing. That was my first time planning any type of event like this. So I guess I should mention OCD Pennsylvania is the local affiliate of the International OCD Foundation. And so we have four walks here in Pennsylvania. So we have a Harrisburg walk, we have a Philadelphia walk, a Pittsburgh walk, and an Erie walk. And so the local walk that I'm most invested in is the Harrisburg walk. And so Emily and I are going to be out there, and we are really trying to raise funds for this. I will share the link in this episode description, and I'll be resharing it in the episode descriptions moving forward through, I think probably through October 15th or so. We also have like OCD Awareness Week coming up, which is, I think it's the 9th of October through maybe it's the 9th. I don't have the dates right in front of me, but it is the second week of October. And so we'll be doing some special, things that week as well, some groups and stuff. Emily will probably run a group. And so anyway, this is just something that's really, really important to us. And if you can come out to the event, if you can donate, we would love that so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just really raising awareness about OCD, like it truly is a really debilitating disorder, and with proper treatment, it can get so much better. But I think through work like this, we can really help educate folks on, how distressing this is. I was listening to a podcast the other week, and they had shared on this podcast that OCD is the seventh most debilitating disorder across the board, like including medical disorders and mental health disorders. And I always try to remind folks of that because I'm like, wow, like this can be so distressing and so disturbing and really life altering. So I think really bringing attention to that. I mean, it can truly get so much better with proper treatment, but yeah, it's a really hard battle for a lot of people.
For sure, yeah. And I think something else to note, which I had read just the other day, and I'm terrible with statistics. I know you're much better, Emily, but I had read how body dysmorphic disorder,
Mm.
which is in that spectrum of disorders as well, but it is even more common than OCD.
Okay.
So and the troubling thing with that is that there are even less therapists treating body dysmorphic disorder than there are treating OCD, which I know if you've ever tried to find treatment for OCD, it is difficult, because
Yeah.
it is specialized treatment, and currently the best treatment for OCD is exposure and response prevention. And Emily, do you want to share what that is? Because that's what
Yeah.
we're going to be using to help Emily with her fear of heights
Yeah.
as we talk about the balloon festival and that upcoming exposure.
Yeah, yeah. So exposure therapy is so helpful for OCD, phobias, fears. And what we do, and what I'll be doing with my exposure with heights, is I will be gradually approach. Well, maybe in this situation, not gradually, but in exposure therapy, we have folks gradually approach things that cause them discomfort and anxiety. So it really perpetuates the cycle of an obsession or a fear. What maintains it is that avoidance or any kind of compulsion or safety behavior somebody might engage in response to that anxiety. So folks might avoid things, engage in things to make them feel better, to neutralize that distress caused by the obsession or the fear. So what we do in exposure and response prevention therapy is we have people eliminate all of those safety behaviors, compulsions, avoidance, and then they go towards the thing that make them really anxious and uncomfortable. So we have folks stay in that situation for an extended period of time, typically 30 to 60 minutes. And what they notice is their anxiety naturally does decrease. So anxiety is a time limited emotion. So when they stay in that situation long enough, they experience most times something called habituation, where your anxiety, your parasympathetic nervous system is working and it really just kind of goes away and dissipates on its own. So a person learns through these exposures that the anxiety is time limited. I can get through this. It goes away without me engaging in any of these compulsions, safety behaviors. And then as you do it repeatedly, your peak anxiety gets less and less, and you really develop a mastery of this anxiety. You can handle it. So that's what we do in exposure therapy. And in this situation with the heights and my fear of balloons, like we're going to go hard. I mean, I have not done anything to really build up to it. And sometimes you don't have to like always build up gradually. You can kind of pick things. So I'm going to be just really going hard and going up
We're
in the air
Yeah,
and
we're going on
facing
a
this
hot air
fear.
balloon ride. I don't know if we actually said that,
Oh,
but
yes.
we are going on a hot air balloon ride.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I mean, I'm excited, but I'm like anxious, but it's good because I really want to allow myself to feel this anxiety, see what happens, go towards it. So yeah, that's what
Yeah.
we'll be doing.
Yeah, which is great. And I just want to add one other thing about exposure and response prevention and how, sometimes our goal is this idea of habituation where we have a reduction in anxiety, but
Mhm.
through that process, without going into all of the things that
Yeah.
we share when you do have treatment, there are some other ways that we try to look at that. We really look at changing the relationship to how we view the anxiety that we experience, and just how we view it, how we respond to it. And also another thing that happens when you're doing repeated exposure is you do develop some distress tolerance
Mhm.
to these experiences, because we always get people who say, well, I don't really notice my anxiety coming down. And so that is true for some people, even
Mhm.
though most people do experience a reduction in anxiety through doing this work. Some people will say, well, I didn't really notice my anxiety come down. So another positive that happens through this treatment is this distress tolerance. Like, we learn that, like, I can have this feeling, and it's okay. Like,
Right.
so I just wanted to add that to what we were
Yeah.
saying there.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, just like Shannon said, it changes our relationship with anxiety. So like it's anxiety is an inevitable part of this human experience. And knowing that, how can we kind of welcome it and allow it? And what I love about this kind of treatment is you don't necessarily just have to apply exposure or distress tolerance to anxiety, but really any kind of difficult emotion or like facing fears in general. I feel like that's such like a powerful perspective to be willing to get uncomfortable. So yeah,
Right.
love this
Yeah,
work.
we do. We love it. So, so I know we're switching topics a lot here today, talking about some different things. But I guess we'll share just a little bit more before we get into the main topic of today's episode. I think, like, let's just talk a little bit more about this upcoming Lancaster Balloon Festival. So it is
Yeah.
called Lancaster Balloon Fest. And it is the weekend of September 16th, 17th, and 18th.
Mhm.
And they have evening and morning hot air balloon rides. And you can sign up online. I think if you just Google Lancaster Balloon Fest. They also have an
Yep.
Instagram. Um,
Facebook.
yeah, so there's lots of ways to connect with them. And it truly looks so beautiful. I've never been before. I've never been on a hot air balloon ride. And um, so we're going to be sharing this episode following our experience with the hot air balloon ride and Emily's fear. And so we're going to talk more about that and the use of exposure treatment. And then we're also going to go to the festival. So we're having a balloon ride prior to the festival. And then we're also going to be at the festival, and we're going to have experiences there. So we're going to talk about the festival and that experience. So I think it looks like a great time. It looks really beautiful. The balloons look so beautiful. So I hope it's good weather.
Yeah.
My understanding is it really has to be perfect weather to get up there in those balloons. And um, so yeah, I just want to throw that out there, that we will be there if you guys want to come and meet us. We
Yeah.
will be there on the 16th. I do believe it's like from 3 to 9. I don't know that we'll be there the entire time, but we will be there at the festival.
Yeah. And
So,
they have live music, food, other vendors. Like there's all kinds of stuff to do. So
mhm,
yeah.
yeah. So seems very, very cool. And they were very kind to us, and they gave us one free hot air balloon ride. So we're just really giving them a shout out for that. That was really, really kind of them.
Yeah. Really kind.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about this protection, that this executive order that our Governor Wolf, um, I think it was last week. I'm
Yeah, it
not,
was last week, but I didn't get an email from the board until the 19th. So it must have
yeah,
happened earlier in the week. And then the board sent me an email. Um,
yeah. This is about this protection of, individuals, keeping them from conversion therapy. And
oh,
so
August 16th is when.
I see the date on it, and then it also says 2/22 up in the,
Yeah,
yeah. So I'm not sure when it actually um it was announced last week.
right.
But so what does this mean? I guess we need to talk about that. And um
Yeah.
So what is conversion therapy? So it's an intervention, at least my understanding is that it is an intervention to attempt to change sexual orientation, gender expression, or gender identity. And a lot of times this is done within Christian communities. Um, More conservative communities has been done. And currently what I noticed was there's about, I think it's about like 16 states that have also put this kind of protection into place. But when you
Right.
think about how many states there are and the whole world, I think I'd also read that there's like 69 countries that engage in this type of practice of conversion therapy. And so I know I mentioned Christianity being one of the sole groups that really encourages something like this. I don't know about other religions, but I imagine maybe there are some other, like, I don't know if it occurs in Muslim, you know, cultures, or I'm not sure. I didn't read further about that. I just know it is
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, and I think really like to hear that, it feels like so foreign because I mean, I've never like seen anybody advertising this kind of treatment, but clearly there are lots of people still engaging in this treatment. And I think just like recognizing that is like, wow, like that is really horrific and really heartbreaking. And some of the research I just found it on the GLAD website said that 698,000 adults from the LGBTQIA plus community have received conversion therapy, like ages 18 to 59. And then about 350,000 adults have, or who, oh, sorry, let me rephrase that. 350,000 people who are now adults received that kind of treatment in their adolescence. So I was very surprised to hear that this is such a prevalent practice.
Yeah, yeah. I know I've met, like, throughout my career, I've met one client who had received conversion therapy, like knowingly, that talked about it.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think, one of the things that is I'd like to make note of, to our listeners, is just that none of these things, like sexual orientation, gender expression, and gender identity, are not considered mental health disorders.
Right.
So I think that's really important to note, because I
Yeah.
do think that for certain groups that these are in their mind considered something like that. Um, and this type of therapy lacks complete scientific credibility. There is like no evidence base for any of this type of
Right.
treatment. Um, I also read that, like, sometimes they will change the name of the treatment. So instead of calling it conversion therapy, sometimes they'll change the name of the treatment to avoid being detected so they can continue to provide this.
Mhm.
So one of the names I saw was sexual orientation change efforts, like SOCE.
Mhm.
There were a ton of different names that I guess
Yeah.
conversion therapy falls under. Um, so yuck,
Yeah. And that
right?
feels so
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And like Shannon was saying, like there's this isn't like backed with like research and also too like the outcomes. I found that like, people who experience this kind of therapy are almost 9 times more likely to attempting suicide, close to 6 times more likely to have increased depression, more likely to engage in illegal substance use. Um, so like really not only is it not helpful, period, but also like really increases the probability of risk and harm to individuals.
mhm. Yeah, I think I was reading too how it often, because it really is violating basic human rights. And it's often a traumatic experience of torture
Oh
when
gosh,
these
yeah.
individuals are having the treatment, that it results in PTSD.
Yeah,
which is post-traumatic stress disorder,
sure.
and re-experiencing, like having experiences of flashbacks and things like that after having this type of treatment. So the treatment, like, what is it actually? Like, I know we said what it does, like what it
Sure.
attempts to do. So and this is all just, what I've read, but so it involves inappropriate, like, use of medications to help
Mhm.
change someone. Sometimes like ice baths, ECT or electroconvulsive therapy, sometimes exorcisms,
Oh
um,
gosh.
the use of prayer. I mean, so many varying things. I think I had read something about the use of ropes at one point. So it really gives you all kinds of images in your mind, at least for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Ugh.
yeah.
Yeah.
So so I was reading an article actually this morning. It was from thecut.com, and um the person they were speaking with and interviewing was her name was Deb Cooney, and she had an experience with conversion therapy when she was a sophomore in college. And she shared in this article about that experience. And there's a lot of details in here about her life and when she realized she was gay, and sharing that with her parents and all of these things. So there's a lot of background information, and I encourage you to check this article out. um, but apparently after a breakup with a girlfriend she had, where she was kind of accepting her sexuality, and she then felt like, oh my gosh, she was getting drawn back to her Christian roots. And she reached out to her parents and said, I really need help. And they were like, okay, what about a deliverance, is what the mom had said. Okay. And because this girl thought that she was being bombarded by demons. And so
Yeah,
mom,
and what is a deliverance exactly? Like what? Like I don't really
I
know.
don't really know either.
Okay.
So I guess we should have been able to define that. But so this is
Yeah.
but I
Okay.
think we're going to hear about what
Oh,
that actually
sure.
was in
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
but so she came home. Oh, actually, here it's explained that it's a biblical practice where a minister prays over you from demonic to free the person from demonic forces that are hurting them.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
So this person said that she really wanted love and connection from her parents. So she decided she would try this. Okay.
Okay.
So sometimes, even though conversion therapy seems like, oh my gosh, it must be something people are forced to do. I mean, this person willingly went and had this treatment.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to read directly from the article, just a little
Sure.
paragraph or two here, just to share what her experience was like. So I spent the first few days preparing. I had to fast for 36 hours. And I had read this, that people would starve themselves. Like, there were all kinds of things that are employed in this practice. So the deliverance was going to be held at an Assembly of God church in Little Rock, which was about an hour away by car. I can't recall the drive. I know I was weak from the fasting. I had been instructed not to wear any jewelry or elaborate clothes so that the demons wouldn't get tangled up on me. When we got there, I was taken alone to a small white room with the pastor and two assistants. Imagine knowing you're about to head into a small room to get demons out. I mean, where would they go? What would they be swirling? Would they be swirling around us? Would I see them? I thought I was going to encounter Satan right before my eyes.
Hmm.
He started saying he would exorcise the demon of the occult. I had what I would consider a full body spiritual experience. I was shaking in my seat. I have theories about that now. I think it was a trauma response. When I was a kid, I'd have constant nightmares about demons. So I always believed that there was spiritual warfare happening over me. But at the time, the shaking made me think it was actually going to work. When we got to the demon of perversion, the pastor was praying, but this time he was so much more aggressive. He grabbed my head and put his hand above my eyebrows, staring into my eyes. He was about 2 inches away from my face, screaming for the demon to get out. This went on for hours, but that demon wouldn't budge. The pastor got even more forceful. And at this point, 2 assistants were trying to hold me down, yelling and praying in tongues. This went on for 6 long hours. My parents were waiting outside the whole time. At one point, I asked, if you get the demon of perversion out, will I no longer be gay? The pastor was like, yes, yes. And then I was like, so I will no longer be attracted to women? He was like, well, the demon won't be in you, it might still be around. So there might still be some attraction, some pull. In that moment, nothing made sense. Why would the demon still be around? Why would I still feel pull if I was truly being spiritually cured? I said I wanted to stop. I told him I was finished. He was yelling, you have chosen to take this path to hell. Don't ever forget that. I walked out quietly with my head down. I was too scared to look at my parents. All I wanted to do was go home. I felt the most intense shame. So I'll stop there, and I will share the link to this article in our episode description. So if you want to continue to read it, but that was just like one experience of what someone had, of someone trying to do this conversion.
Gosh, yeah, I was getting chills. Like, oh, I mean, just
Yeah,
hearing that, like, just, yeah,
right.
so heartbreaking.
It really is.
Yeah.
So I think, with all of that being said and just sharing this information, we just wanted to make people aware. At least in my mind, my goal here today was just to make people aware of some of the stuff that was going on and why our
Hmm.
governor was, putting this protection in place, and how
Yeah.
important that is, and how important it is for more states, to enforce this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so important because I think too, like, you know, like I did not know or realize that conversion therapy was this prevalent, and I just think, gosh, like maybe a lot of other people might not know this. And so, yeah,
Mhm.
having this protection in place is, yeah, sounds like really necessary.
Right, right. Yeah. So thank you for listening to us about this,
Yeah.
um, and I think just, something that is so important is just, self-acceptance and
Hmm.
acceptance of others for who they are.
Hmm.
And, and I do think that's truly how we find happiness in ourselves, um, by accepting others and um, accepting ourselves too.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think if you really felt good about yourself and loved and care about yourself, you're going to want other people to feel
Hmm.
comfortable and to feel happy. And everybody's on a different path, and their path might look different than yours, and that's really okay. And
Hmm.
really just encouraging people to live as authentically as they want. Like this is their life.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think just trying to be open and open-minded,
Yeah.
you know. So, and trying to get all the information and learning,
Mhm.
because I imagine for a lot of people, I know I'm trying to end this topic here, but like I know I just want to say I imagine for a lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of people who've grown up in certain religions, and
Yeah.
that this is coming from a place of we love you and this is what we believe is best. We don't want you. I think even in that article I was reading, there was, these people were saying how they believe that this person will go to hell, and so I
Yeah.
think there is this whole idea of that. And so I
Right.
just really encourage people to be open-minded, and that there are other possibilities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, thanks for bringing that up because I think, yeah, like that's a really important perspective to remember. Like these parents, I mean, I'm sh as horrific as this experience was for this person, like it probably was really rooted in fear and
Yeah.
wanting eternal life for their child. And they've grown up in an environment where, yeah, these certain things will you'll be condemned and go to hell. So like it probably really was coming from a place like wanting to save their child, but in
Hmm.
turn,
Right.
really truly damaging their child.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So, and I think, I mean, just wondering how much actually like people know, like, do they know that we're trying to kind of, pray the gay away or
Yeah.
whatever? Like, if do we know we're actually putting torture methods,
Oh God. Yeah.
like things that are done in countries that, that are at war,
Mm,
like is that truly what people believe this is? Because honestly, I didn't really know,
yeah.
that maybe people really are being tortured.
Yeah. And I think I had the perspective that like maybe can like this kind of therapy happened like years and years and years and years ago, like knowing that like, yeah, this is something that really is happening even now.
Yeah, yeah, it's so
Yeah.
scary. So, um, yeah, so I think we're gonna move on to our final topic today, and that
Mhm.
is honeybees and beekeeping. And
Yes.
we're just going to do a quick, like something quick here about that. Emily
Y-
wants to talk about an experience
Yeah.
she had.
So, in the work that we do, we see people for phobias, obsessions, anxiety, and a really common phobia specifically for kids is this like phobia of flying bugs and bees. So, like, I've been trying to build some relationships in the community to go out and find like local beekeepers with the hope of like, going there with some clients and doing some exposure work. So yesterday I went to someone's home who has like a beehive, and it was really interesting. I wore a bee suit and I've never really seen how any of this works. So it's really just like some boxes, and then there's like frames where there's like the combs and there's the queen and like just like thousands and thousands of bees. So like they're in these boxes, and you wouldn't really like, to me, I'm like, oh, this is it. But when you open it and pull it out, there's like all these bees, and like each box provides like pounds of honey, and it could take like several weeks. And I just learned a lot of information about like the lifespan of bees. Like the queen bee lives for like 7 to 8 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and she
That's
only goes
crazy.
out once. So she goes out, she leaves the hive once, like basically once in her life, and she goes out and she gets like mated or whatever, and she can use that one interaction to like produce all of these bees for the rest of her life. And I guess when she lays like the eggs or the larva, she can make which one's male and female, like, which was so weird. And then they like like they all have these different roles, and um yeah, then like some of the worker bees only live like 2 weeks and some can live several years. So I don't know, just like getting all that information was really cool. And then seeing how they all like interact and they all have these roles and jobs. And yeah, it was really interesting that I tasted different honeys. So depending on where the honey is, like whether if it's from this region, different regions, like it tastes so different, which I was like, I guess really looking back, like, oh, it's like not really surprising. But yeah, there's like a lot of different flavors. And then like seeing the process, how you scrape the combs and it goes through this process and it's like spun. And then it's like, I don't know all the terms honestly, but just watching the process, it was like really, really interesting and very, very thoughtful, methodical process to get delicious honey.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was cool. So I was thinking like I don't have a phobia of bees. Like I got stung a couple times actually and was like not phased because these were just honeybees, like not really significant stings, but like I'm like, oh, for someone who has like a phobia, this would be like a really good exposure to really just like see all this because they're flying around your head, they're all over the place. And the stings, honestly, for these kind of bees, it literally did just feel like itchy. I didn't experience any pain. Um, but yeah, it would be, I think, a really good exposure for people with phobias.
Okay. And I was looking to see what that phobia is called because I don't have I don't have all the phobias memorized, but
Mhm.
it's entomophobia. Entoma
Yeah.
entomophobia. Yeah, so it's the fear of flying of insects. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and they do make all those noises, and it is a lot, like,
yeah.
and then too, I was thinking this would be a really good exposure. I forget there's also a phobia with like tiny holes.
Oh
You know what
yeah.
I'm talking about?
Yeah, I
When you
do.
pull out the frame and like the comb, there's all these holes where they have their honey, then there's like the larva, and I'm like, oh, this would be a great exposure for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
What
it was a lot.
what was your favorite part of that?
I think my favorite part was I think seeing the queen. I was so curious about like what the queen looks like, and she's really not that much larger, and you can tell her apart because her abdomen is longer, but not by like I would think she was like much larger or like looked more different, but she her abdomen was just slightly longer. So like a typical bee, their wings end at kind of at their abdomen or close by, and hers was a little bit longer, so you could kind of see compared to the length of her wings. And this beekeeper, he had for every queen he had like dotted like paint on her back so he could easily determine like where she is. So I
Okay.
thought that was cool seeing the queen.
That is
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. How was the honey? Was it delicious or
Um, yeah, it was really good. I some tasted more like molasses, other
okay.
batches of honey tasted more sweet. So I forget, I think it was actually the local batch. I was in central Pennsylvania in Carlisle, and that batch tasted very sweet. So
Okay. Yeah. So
yeah,
you could tell a difference.
yeah, I really could.
Okay. That's pretty cool. What a neat
Uh,
experience. Yeah.
yeah, it was cool. Something I like I've never done before, but just to see the process and all of the work that goes into this and a lot of maintenance to take care of these thousands of bees.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very cool. Trying new things. Love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Awesome. So, well, thank you to our listeners for joining us today and hearing about all of these topics. And like I said, I'll share the link for the cut article. I will also share the executive order. And I will share the link to the Lancaster Balloon Fest, and I will share the link to the OCD walk. And if you guys want to join us or donate, we would really appreciate that. Uh,
Yes.
please follow us, like and subscribe. Give us some ratings on these podcast
Please give us
episodes.
some feedback.
Please, we would love that.
Mhm.
This is going to be our first episode that will be video. So we will be posting video to YouTube now as well. So the channel is Finding the Thing. So this will also be available that way if you prefer to see us. I don't recommend it necessarily, but
Why?
I'm just
Shannon,
kidding.
wrong
I
answer.
know, I know. Please watch us and listen to us, but yeah, so and we also have a TikTok going. I did start a TikTok the other week, so that's happening now too. So yeah,
Oh,
so please give us a shout out and check us out and follow us in all these places, please.
yeah.
Okay, thanks
All
so
right.
much.